What happens when America's sweetheart finally snaps on live TV? You're about to see one of the most unforgettable moments in morning show history. Kelly Clarkson squaring off against Jenna Bush Hager in a clash that spirals completely out of control. Before we get into the fireworks, hit subscribe and drop a comment with your take on celebrity interviews gone wrong. The day began like any other on the Today show set. Kelly Clarkson was there to promote her new album and tour, a segment expected to be lighthearted and uplifting. The studio buzzed with warmth as Jenna Bush Hager greeted her guest. "We're back with the incredible Kelly Clarkson," Jenna announced, all smiles. "Kelly, your new album is topping charts and fans are loving it." Kelly gave a polite smile. "Thank you, Jenna. Always happy to be here." But within moments, the tone shifted. "So, Kelly," Jenna leaned forward, her expression innocent on the surface. "There's been a lot of speculation about your personal life. How do you juggle being a music powerhouse with, let's call them personal challenges?" The question lingered. Kelly's smile faltered. She had agreed to talk about music, not to have her private life dissected. "I'm here to talk about my album," Kelly said evenly, though her voice carried a new edge. "The music speaks for itself. That's what I'd like to focus on today." Jenna nodded, but pressed again. "Of course. But your fans really connect with your authenticity. They see someone who's real, who's been through struggles just like them. Don't you think it's important to share that?" Kelly's jaw tightened. The lights seemed harsher, the cameras closer. "My authenticity comes through my music," she replied firmly. "I don't need to break down my private life on television to prove that." The tension was thick now. Producers exchanged nervous glances. Yet Jenna pushed further. "But Kelly, you've been open before. About your divorce, being a single mom. Don't your fans deserve to know how you're really coping?" That was the breaking point. "Deserve to know?" Kelly's voice rose. "My fans deserve good music. They don't deserve to have my pain turned into entertainment." Jenna blinked, startled, but kept going. "I think you're being a little defensive. This is just a conversation." "A conversation," Kelly snapped, her hands gripping the chair. "This feels more like an interrogation. I came here to talk about my album, not to be psychoanalyzed on live TV." The studio went silent. Crew members froze. Even Jenna's co-hosts shifted uncomfortably, unsure whether to intervene. "Kelly, you're overreacting," Jenna shot back. "This is how interviews work. We ask questions. You answer." That was it. Kelly shot to her feet, her mic crackling with feedback. Her voice sliced through the silence. "That's how this works. Let me tell you how it really works, Jenna. You sit in your bubble, asking invasive questions about people's worst moments, and call it journalism. You think because a camera's on me, you're entitled to every piece of my soul." The words landed like blows. Jenna recoiled. The audience held its breath. This was no longer a cheerful morning segment. This was Kelly Clarkson, raw, unfiltered, and pushed past her breaking point. "Kelly, please sit down," Jenna stammered. "Where live? Oh, I know where live." Kelly shot back, her words sharp as glass. "That's exactly why you thought you could ambush me with this garbage. You counted on me smiling and playing along just because the cameras are rolling." In the control room, chaos erupted. Producers barked orders, debating whether to cut to commercial, but no one could look away. This wasn't a train wreck. It was television history in the making. Jenna's co-host finally stepped in, his voice tentative. "Maybe we should just take a step back here." "No," Kelly snapped, turning on him like a storm. "Don't you dare try to smooth this over. She spent the last 5 minutes trying to exploit my personal trauma for ratings, and now you all want to pretend like it didn't just happen." Jenna flushed crimson, her smile gone. "I was doing my job, Kelly. I asked the questions our viewers want answered." "Your viewers?" Kelly let out a laugh, bitter and humorless. "You mean the people who tune in hoping to watch you tear women down?" who get their entertainment from watching someone's lowest moments replayed like a circus act. That's completely unfair. Jenna fired back, standing now as well. I've never tried to tear anyone down. I ask tough questions because that's what real journalism requires. Kelly's eyes locked on hers, cold and unblinking. When she spoke, her voice was quiet, but it cut deeper than any shout. Real journalism. Is that what you call this? Real journalism would mean researching my music, understanding my process, maybe even listening to the album you're supposedly here to promote. Instead, you regurgitate tabloid gossip and call it professionalism. The room felt suffocating. Even the hum of the cameras seemed to fade under the tension. The studio audience, who had cheered minutes earlier, now sat frozen, every eye fixed on the confrontation unraveling before them. Jenna straightened her shoulders, her composure cracking into open defiance. Kelly, I think you're being incredibly unprofessional. Our viewers deserve better than an outburst like this. The words were a spark on gasoline. Unprofessional. Kelly's voice dropped, icy and lethal. Let me break something down for you, Jenna. I've been in this industry over 20 years. I've won Grammys. I've sold millions of records. I've built a career on talent and hard work. And you, sitting here in borrowed authority, dare to lecture me about professionalism. Jenna's mouth opened, then shut again. She hadn't expected the blow to land so hard. I never said anything about your career, she managed. You didn't have to. Kelly cut in. Every question you've asked has been meant to diminish it. You ignored my artistry, my accomplishments, everything I've built, so you could dig into my private pain. And you wonder why I'm upset. The co-host tried once more, desperation creeping into his tone. Ladies, perhaps we can. Can what? Kelly turned on him, her voice razor-sharp. Can pretend this is normal. That it's okay for journalists to ambush their guests with personal attacks. That we should just move on like nothing happened. Jenna stepped forward now, her own anger finally breaking loose. Nobody ambushed you. I asked legitimate questions about your public statements and your public life. Legitimate questions. Kelly's voice rose, trembling with fury. You asked how I was coping. You framed me like a victim. That's not legitimate. That's a cheap shot designed to squeeze an emotional reaction out of me. The silence was deafening. The crew, the audience, even the co-hosts, all of them knew they weren't just witnessing an interview gone wrong. They were watching the very format of morning television rip apart live on air. And then Jenna delivered the line that pushed everything past the point of no return. Maybe the problem isn't my questions, Kelly. Maybe the problem is you. Maybe you're so used to controlling your narrative that you can't handle someone asking real questions. Kelly's eyes narrowed to slits. She stepped closer, her voice dropping to a near whisper that carried more weight than any shouting match. Real questions, she repeated, the words heavy with disdain. You think those were real questions? Her voice built with each word, each step forward. A real question would be, Kelly, your new album explores resilience and growth. What was the creative process behind that? A real question would be, what inspired the orchestral arrangements on track 7? A real question would prove you actually listened to the music I poured my soul into. Jenna shifted in place, her confidence flickering, but she forced herself to respond. Those are softball questions, Kelly. Our audience wants substance. Kelly's laugh this time was sharp as broken glass. Substance, she echoed, stepping so close the cameras caught every twitch of tension in her face. You wouldn't recognize substance if it hit you in the face. Kelly's laugh was sharp and bitter. You think asking me to relive my worst moments on national television is substance? You think prying into my healing process is journalism? That's not substance. Jenna, that's voyeurism dressed up as news. In the control room, pandemonium reigned. Some producers begged to cut to commercial. Others shouted to keep the cameras rolling. Everyone knew This was the kind of unscripted television moment that would be replayed for years. Jenna's face was flushed, her composure unraveling. You're being completely unreasonable. Every celebrity gets asked about their personal life. That's part of being famous. Is it? Kelly shot back, fire in her eyes. Says who? Says the media machine that feeds on people's pain. Says the system that builds women up just to tear them down. I didn't sign up to be your emotional punching bag when I chose to make music. You signed up for scrutiny when you became a public figure. Jenna countered, her voice sharpening. That's how this industry works. Kelly's reply came low and lethal. The kind of voice that made everyone in the studio hold their breath. No, Jenna. That's how you've decided it works. That's the toxic culture you fuel every time you sit in that chair and pretend exploitation is journalism. The accusation hit Jenna like a physical blow. Her mouth opened and closed, words failing her. I am not exploiting anyone. I'm doing my job. Your job, Kelly repeated with disdain. Your job is to inform, to tell stories that matter, to use your platform responsibly. Instead, you pick at wounds like an emotional vulture. Jenna stood abruptly, her professional mask gone. How dare you speak to me like that? I've been nothing but professional. Professional. Kelly's voice cracked through the silence like thunder. You call ambushing guests with invasive questions professional, ignoring the reason they came here. Turning interviews into therapy sessions without consent. That's not professional, Jenna. That's predatory. One of the co-hosts tried to cut in weekly. Maybe we should just talk about the tour dates. Don't. Kelly snapped, her eyes still locked on Jenna. Don't try to fix this now. The damage is done. Jenna's chest heaved with anger. The only damage here is what you've done to this interview with your tantrum. Kelly's eyes flashed steel hard. Tantrum? No. I'm standing up for myself against someone who thinks manipulation is part of the job description. If that looks like a tantrum to you, then maybe it's your standards that need work. Jenna's voice cracked as she tried to defend herself. I don't manipulate anyone. Really? Kelly's voice was calm again, but deadly. Then explain why you ignored every talking point my team sent over. Explain why you didn't ask one single question about my music. Explain why every word out of your mouth was designed to make me break down on camera. Jenna opened her mouth, but nothing came out. The silence was damning. Kelly nodded slowly, the disappointment etched across her face. That's what I thought. You can't explain it, because you know exactly what you were doing. You wanted a breakdown, a spectacle for ratings. That's not true, Jenna whispered, but even she didn't sound convinced. Kelly shook her head, her fury giving way to something heavier. And that's the saddest part. You're a smart woman, Jenna. You could use this platform to celebrate creativity, to elevate artists, to inspire people. But instead, you chose to be part of the problem. Jenna's bravado faltered, her face pale, shaken for the first time. I never meant. It doesn't matter what you meant, Kelly cut in. What matters is what you did. And what you did was turn a celebration of art into an attack on a person. With that, Kelly reached down and unclipped her microphone. The soft click echoed like a gavel in a courtroom. She set it carefully on her chair, a symbol of everything that had gone wrong. I'm done here, she said. Steady, final. The studio was silent except for the hum of cameras capturing history. Jenna stared at the abandoned mic, realizing this wasn't a bluff. Kelly was leaving. Kelly, you can't just walk out. We're live? Watch me. Kelly didn't hesitate. She turned toward the exit, her stride measured, deliberate. But just before she stepped off set, she glanced back one last time. You know what I hope, Jenna? I hope one day you learn the difference between being a journalist and being a predator. The words dropped like a verdict. Jenna shrank back into her chair, the pale and speechless. The co-host sat frozen. The audience didn't dare breathe. And then Kelly Clarkson, America's sweetheart no longer willing to play nice, walked off the set, leaving a stunned silence behind her that no one in the studio would ever forget. The control room was chaos. Voices clashing over headsets, half demanding a cut to commercial, half insisting they were watching television history unfold. On the studio floor, however, time felt suspended. Every breath, every step, every word from Kelly landed with the force of something irreversible. Jenna, visibly rattled, tried to close the gap between them. "Kelly, please. Let's just reset. Let's bring this back to the music." But Kelly's sharp laugh cut through the tension. "Now you want to talk about the music. After 15 minutes of poking and prodding, after dragging me through things I never agreed to share." Jenna's face flushed, her usual composure cracking. She opened her mouth, but no words came out. The silence that followed was more damning than any admission. Kelly let it hang for a beat, then delivered her final blow. "The truth is, Jenna, you didn't care about my music. You cared about making a moment. But here's the thing. You don't get to manufacture my pain for your ratings. Not today. Not ever." The audience gasped, some applauding softly despite the tension, others frozen in disbelief. Crew members exchanged looks, unsure whether to intervene or simply bear witness. And then, without another word, Kelly turned toward the studio exit. This time, there was no hesitation in her stride. It was the walk of someone who had decided, finally, fully, that her dignity would never again be collateral for a headline. "Where are you going?" Jenna's voice cracked as it echoed across the set. Kelly didn't turn around. "I'm going somewhere where people appreciate art, instead of trying to dissect the artist. I'm going to find an audience that wants to hear about music, instead of manufactured drama." At the edge of the set, Kelly stopped one final time and turned, not to Jenna, but to the cameras. Her voice, calm and resolute, carried across the stunned studio. "To anyone watching this who works in media, I want you to remember something. The people you interview are human beings with feelings, boundaries, and dignity. They're not characters in your entertainment show. They're real people with real lives, and they deserve better than this." Her eyes flicked back to Jenna. "And to you, Jenna, I hope you take some time to think about what kind of journalist you want to be. Because right now, you're not the kind that makes the world better." With that, Kelly Clarkson walked off the Today Show set, leaving behind a stunned studio, a speechless host, and a moment that would be replayed and analyzed for years to come. The cameras kept rolling for several more seconds, capturing Jenna's shell, shocked expression, and the absolute silence that had fallen over what was supposed to be a cheerful morning show. That's how one of America's most beloved entertainers made it crystal clear that she wouldn't tolerate being treated as anything less than the accomplished artist she is. What do you think about Kelly's decision to walk out? Was she right to stand up for herself, or should she have handled the situation differently? Hit that subscribe button and let me know in the comments below.